The QJO Initiative exists to inspire action by highlighting the stories of the tired, the bruised, and the bloody in pursuit of their life's purpose. We will participate in recreation with intention to reveal the highs and lows that accompany each person on the journey to success. We are SGOC Media, and this is the Quit Jerking Off Initiative.
Eddie, one, thank you for taking the time.
Yep.
Tell me, who is Eddie Wilson? What your business is?
Yep.
What do you got going on? Because I can't quantify it in one place.
For the most part, I think if you kind of put a parentheses around me, I'm what I believe is a cause capitalist. I build businesses, sustainable businesses, to ultimately support what my passions in life are. We've got the orphanages around the world, feeding centers, all that different stuff, but every business I build is for that purpose. I believe that business exists to make money. I'm a capitalist at heart. I'm a real estate investor. But in the end, I believe that our capital that we make should go to do something good for someone else in this world. And that at the core is who I am. So it really doesn't matter. I mean, I have, up until last year, I had about 86 companies. Sold 76 of them last year. Had a business closing every 5 days last year. It was a wild ride, but in the end, I don't want to be known as the businesses that I own or build. I want to be known as the guy who is helping other people.
I can't agree more when it comes to the helping other people thing, because when you start thinking about, yes, you go to work, you build businesses because it has to have some sort of monetary return on it, but what you do with monetary return is what defines the individual.
Sure.
Right. So when I hear about what you're doing with the orphanages and what you're doing with all the other things, it's inspiring to me.
Sure. There's something about doing good in this world that brings a joy and happiness that is not fulfilled and it's unparalleled by any other experience. And so, you get to the point where you have enough money, you can go do whatever you want to do, you can buy whatever you want to buy. And then you've hit this ceiling of happiness and joy. And all of a sudden, I was on a trip to Honduras, and it was my college buddy of mine, and he said, "Hey, come check out my orphanage I built." And so that was my first experience, and I go over there, and he tells me, these are the kids that I can feed, and then these are the kids I can't because I don't have enough resources. As an American, you're like, okay, well, let's fix that. Like, I'm gonna feed these right now. And we get in the truck, and he goes, "Eddie," he goes, "here's the deal. You can appease your conscience by feeding them for one day." He goes, "but that's not going to help them." He's like, "These kids will be starving next week. You're either in it or you're out. Let's not go back with the day of hope. Like, if you go back, you got to go back with a lifetime of hope." And at that point, I was like, okay. So, we were in, and we started doing that one. And all of a sudden, you see these lives of children, and then you realize that they need education. They need all these. So we started, getting involved, and 14, 15 feeding centers later, all around the world. There's a return there too that I cannot describe. I don't know what it is, but some might call it karma, some might, I don't know how you describe it, but there's a good when you do it for someone else that is returned to you, and it is tangible. And it's not why I do it, but my life is so much more fruitful and blessed because of that, and I can't really quantify it. I just know it's attached to it.
Recently, I've had an opportunity where, probably 6-8 months ago, you shoot me a text, "Hey, you should go do this." And bullshit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and book a flight because Eddie Wilson, I had no idea where I was going, but Eddie Wilson said to show up here, and I showed up. How did that domino or translate to a point where now others around you, in your opinion, would be willing to do what I did?
Sure.
Eddie Wilson sent me a text.
Yeah.
So I will go do X.
In life, authenticity breeds authenticity. And I think the reason why, when I said, "Hey, Aaron, you should hop on a plane and come meet me over here because you need to be a part of this," you didn't even really ask me what it was. You just hopped on a plane. And I think that authenticity and knowing that there's alignment there just causes that natural magnetism. And it's just like, yeah, I'm in too. I want to go the same direction you're going. That's why I'm sitting here tonight.
Yeah.
You called me and said, "I want you to be a part of this," so I'm here.
What was there a time where it kind of felt like, okay, there's something that's happening where at the time it felt like it was a terrible thing, but
Sure.
ended up being a blessing in the long run because maybe it did something for you
Yeah.
to almost somewhat force that personal growth.
In my 20s, I sold some businesses, made some money, and it was all about me. And there was a lot of lessons learned in my younger days. Like, you go back and talk to Eddie in his 20s, and I'm arrogant, unapproachable, I'm a jerk, and there's a lot of processes, that I had to go through to learn those lessons. I got to a place in my life where I was super successful. I managed a bunch of radio and TV properties early on in my 20s, and I stood on the Billboard stage as the youngest general manager in a major market. I won a bunch of awards, got awards back when Billboard actually awarded station managers, stuff like that. And so I'm standing on the Billboard stage getting an award. And then I went home that night, and it just being totally transparent and open, wondering, have I hit a ceiling? Like, what else is there? And depression just set in.
Right.
And
What now?
I'd hit a bunch of pinnacles in that year, and only my wife knows. To the point where I thought about taking my life multiple times a year. Just depression was just a part of who I was, because when you hit that, it's what I was just talking about. It's like you hit these ceilings. And then it's like, what else matters?
Why am I here?
Why am I here? There's got to be something bigger. And so those moments, sometimes even the pinnacle becomes, the valley. And that really changed me and I went through about a 3 or 4 year time period. I actually took a couple months off and just went and sat on a beach and got up every morning and just went out and sat literally prayed, meditated, just like, what am I even doing? Just because I was in such a bad spot. That I just didn't even have a desire to live, and it's so weird to say I'm accomplishing every goal in life I set out to accomplish, but yet I don't feel, purpose enough to live.
You're struggling through it, you're on a beach, you're talking, you're meditating, you're talking to God, you're praying, whatever it is you're doing. How did you work your way out of that?
Yeah, I called my dad. I grew up in a family where, the men, kind of sucked it up and you really didn't talk about your feelings, and I was just in a really low spot. I needed a lifeline, so I called my dad and just said, hey, I'm just going to be real honest with you. This is where I'm at. And he was shocked. He was shocked. He was like, dude, all this, your family thinks you're the greatest thing ever. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not. Life sucks. I really don't know that I want to live. And he was like, you got to connect with something bigger. You've got to find something that has more value than what you're putting your current, life into, because that's never going to satisfy. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's going to leave a bigger void each time you reach it. And that's when I started my quest for just purpose. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know where I was headed. And so I left Atlanta. That was where we lived at the time. Went back to Ohio, where I grew up. That was my childhood, and just kind of started reconnecting with life. And my dad and I started doing some business together. We started building some properties, built a bunch of multifamily stuff together, and built an excavation company together. And for 2 or 3 years, just kind of regrounded, try to get back to what I knew. And then that was a launching point for me. And then that's when I started to find those opportunities to serve others and really kind of give back. And what I saw is everything I kind of did in business had an element of success to it, because I'd found a process that worked for me. And so it didn't matter if I was building an excavation company or real estate or whatever, it became success. And so I figured that out, and then that became just a part of who I was. And then I started pushing all of that towards that purpose that I was finding. Yeah.
People are going to hear this and well, he's different. That's Eddie Wilson.
Yeah.
They're not thinking that they're capable of something like that. Okay, so how do you create the process?
I've been able to do that well in my career, and that really comes down to what we were talking about earlier, and that is finding the right people. I'm a systems guy. I built an entire systems program called Empire to help businesses build and grow and systemize their entire process. And one of my companies coaches pretty large companies in that. But in the end, it comes down to if you have all the right processes and not the right people. But again, I find the right people by investing in those people, not asking what they can do for me. The people that run my companies are so locked into my bigger vision that they just don't leave. They're part of who I am. They're part of what I'm trying to accomplish, and they see how they're, and that's what transcends just a paycheck, a bonus, ownership, whatever structure I've created for them. It transcends it all. They have a heart and a passion for what I'm trying to accomplish, and that's who I hire. And to me, there's no greater investment in life than relationships and people.
What advice do you have for us? I mean, you've experienced part of what we're going to do. You experienced today, short rock crawling trail. Tomorrow we'll experience a big one. We got a chance to hang around the fire and shoot the shit. We got to have a chance to have dinner at camp. What advice from your perspective would you have for us trying to do what we're doing?
I don't know that I have. I mean, like, to me, it's just keep it up. It puts your guard down. I mean, sitting here by a fire, out testing, your capabilities, getting out of your element. I mean, all of those really, number one, help build relationships. I mean, walking away with a collective experience to tell stories later on is what that shared experience is all about. Has that value, but then also, getting outside of your element to do something like this. Very rarely, I can't say that I've never, but I don't know that I've ever had a conversation about struggles I've had in life, like being open, honest, and I mean, what breaks that down? What opens that up? This does, and that's what I think the business world needs, to be in touch with what really does make them successful versus standing up in front of a bunch of other guys, maybe beating their chest. Telling them why you're so good. I mean, that type of stuff. It just really doesn't help anybody.
We're feeding people.
Yeah.
We're feeding people right now that are starving. They're starving mentally. They're starving emotionally. They're starving internally, and they sometimes they don't even realize they're starving.
Yeah.
We're trying. We want to give them something. That's what drives me to do this over and over and over again.
I think that you can look at, I believe in a year or so, as you begin to hear the stories and the impact it's made, whether it's in guys sitting around the campfire going, you know what, something distilled in my own life, or somebody sitting here watching the video and them being held by true authenticity. I think you guys will understand how worth it is. So I appreciate you guys putting this on. It's valuable.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.